Our friends Joel and Samy, Joel and Natasha, I should say. Good morning, guys. How are you? I hate to ask
Paul.
you that.
It's good to see you again.
I know
Good morning, Paul.
good to see you. Man, where do we start? For folks who don't keep up with this in our audience across the state, Hamas, of course, is a group of Iranian-backed terrorists. The group is designated as a foreign terrorist organization. It's maintained an ironclad grip over Gaza since violently taking over the territory back in 2007, I believe. And it's there are so many different questions on this one, but let me give it to you guys. And from what you've been able to glean in the past 24 hours, what is happening? What's the status of this?
Paul, Israel has gone through its September 11. A great many are calling it their Pearl Harbor event. And just moments ago, we received news from Jerusalem, which has actually just heard another siren in Jerusalem. Some 800 Israelis were killed on Saturday alone. Its most significant loss of life in a single day since Israel was declared an independent nation. It is hard to imagine what folks are going through in Israel today. In fact, Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, declared war on the terrorist organization Hamas. And as you know, Hamas deployed, and the Palestinian Jihad has deployed over 1,000 individuals into Israel. It was an attack that we've never seen before. There's still some 27 breaches that they're focusing on at this moment. So it is horrific. The pain is significant. And on top of that, 2,000 individuals are injured, wounded seriously. And we also have over 130 people that were taken hostages into Gaza, taken from Israel into Gaza, including women, children, elderly, and a Holocaust survivor.
Looking, Natasha, when you see some of the videos coming out of there, one of the videos I've seen over and over again is apparently a body in the back of a pickup truck, and you've got a lot of Hamas terrorists in the back of that truck celebrating almost like they went deer hunting or something. It's just cold what you see. I also heard that there are children that they put in cages. We are also hearing that there are some American hostages, which I'm sure they're thinking are quite valuable, since the President of the United States of America have already set a benchmark of $6 billion on the last deal. So this could not be any worse.
Right. I mean, it's devastating, really, to see those video and also photo images of young women, of children, of elderly. I mean, a grandmother, Holocaust survivor, also being captured. So, you can't really. There are wars that are, between the armies, but this is a terrorist attack. We should always remember this is a terrorist attack by a group that is actually governing, which is not governing really, but it's kind of in the government of a Gaza Strip, of Palestinians living there, that is actually bad for Israel, bad for Palestinians, and bad for America, bad for the world. I mean, we can't actually accept, and we have to. Israel announced that it's going to have a complete seize of Gaza, where Hamas is attacking still with their rockets, a civilian population. I mean, Jerusalem is under attack. Tel Aviv is under attack. They're now attacking actually the airport. Lots of flights were canceled. And this should not be, they should really cut off all the ties, because they do control some of the trade, the food supplies, electricity, water, just to strangle them, to stop doing what they're doing now.
Let me ask you this, because Joel, they fired about 3,500 rockets. It's probably more than that now, but it was about 3,500 rockets from Gaza into Israel. Did we not have any intelligent reports at all on this one? It seems like we didn't have anybody on the ground. Nobody knew about this. Normally, we have from the CIA have some indications this possibly could happen. There was a peace event going on with all of these people. You see it, all of a sudden they see these little dots in the sky, some paratroopers coming down. Well, I'm not sure if they were paragliding or parachuting, but they came down and had automatic weapons and started firing. Out of the blue, the peace event went to tragedy. Why didn't, or was there some indication this could be happening to be, I don't know, putting Israel more on alert?
Yes, Paul, and I believe there will be probably a more serious investigation within the Israeli structures from the government level into its own intelligence structures as to why it failed significantly in not being able to at least have any indication of what was going to basically be unleashed on towards citizens. From the U.S. point of view as well, we take pride in our intelligence structures and fund it significantly, and specifically in the Arab world, in the Middle East. The U.S. intelligence structures also fail. And I think that U.S. legislators ought to address that issue too. So
in a serious way.
Exactly. I mean, this is a colossal failure from the intelligence structures, because this was 1,000 individuals stopping or basically coming into Israel.
I want you to hear this from John Ratliff, who, man, it would be good to have him back in office. But your comment on this?
What is your reaction, John, when you hear Andrew Bates in the press shop say zero taxpayer dollars, no Iranian money spent yet? When spent Iranian money can only be used by private actors?
My reaction, Kaylee, is, as it has been from day one, those words ring hollow from the Biden administration. They're disingenuous at best. It's not even just this $6 billion, which clearly is going to further enrich Iran. It's closer to $60 billion. If you look at what the Biden administration has done to help this Islamic terrorist regime in Iran by stop enforcing sanctions, by lifting restrictions, by allowing Iranian oil to increase by 650% over the last 2 years, from 400,000 barrels of oil a day to 3 million barrels of oil a day. All of this has strengthened an Iranian regime that, you know, Kaylee, we left weaker and poorer than it had been in the last 20 years. And instead, they've largely been funded by the Biden administration's actions in allowing them to strengthen their position and to create this kind of mayhem. I don't think it's unfair to say that Iran funded Hamas here, but the Biden administration helped fund Iran.
Wow. Weak leadership leads to this across the world, and we're seeing that. Would you agree with that or disagree with that?
Yeah, I agree completely. Everyone knows, and we actually, not just the U.S., but also the EU countries have Hamas designated as a terrorist organization, and everyone knows, and Iran is very proud to say, we are funding Hamas. We're funding Hezbollah, also another terrorist group, designated terrorist group that is attacking Israel from the north. So if we know that Iran is backing terrorist groups, Hezbollah, Hamas, even attacks from Yemen may come also funded by Iran, we have to actually sanction Iran completely. And instead of sanctioning it and cutting off all the funding that they actually received, the $6 billion from Biden administration, we should have also stronger leadership, as you said, in the White House, because with Biden, we reversed on all good policies. And when you come to the foreign policy, we wouldn't have Afghanistan debacle. I mean, where our Americans were killed, military left over, and then Ukraine war as well, Russia's war with Ukraine.
Joel and Natasha, we have a break coming up in here, but I don't think there's any doubt on anybody's mind. Most people understand Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corporation has reportedly been working with Hamas to plan the attack since August. One of the stories I have, Hamas and Hezbollah are both considered terrorist organizations to the U.S. government, but apparently we were in the dark on this one, as was Israel, and it took a while for them to set all this up and get equipment in place. some of that equipment is the rumors. I'll ask you back about it when we come back. Was some of that arsenal from Afghanistan?
They're reportedly just weeks away from a nuclear bomb, something which would have never happened under the Trump administration.
That is the former president in August of this year, tagging it. Sooner or later, people are going to have to start listening to this guy. And then when he says that about a week away from a nuclear bomb, it scares the hell out of a lot of people, or should. Have you heard the rumor about some of the weaponry coming out of Afghanistan? There was a high-ranking Israel Defense Force commander who said some of the U.S. weapons left in Afghanistan by the Biden administration were found in the hands of Palestinian groups active in the Gaza Strip. Have you guys heard that, either one of you?
In fact, from within Israel, as well as other reports, we've been tracking this as well. In fact, the Taliban is one of the top arms dealers in the world today. And thanks to the Biden administration, what we left behind in Afghanistan is a serious concern. So these weapons are flowing into the arms market. And who are the top buyers of it? Of course, Iran, Syria. And where are they pushing these items to? Are terror groups, including Hamas, Palestinian jihadists, and other groups in the Middle East. So this is a serious problem, and that responsibility lies with the Biden administration. This is what happens when you not only have weak leadership, but you have incompetency. And the fact that this should not have taken place in the first place. So this is a serious concern that members of Congress ought to dig into and to hold individuals responsible for this, unprecedented situation that we're experiencing globally.
Is this leading up to another conflict with Iran that we're going to have to face one way or the other to go back there? The men and women of this of the military probably losing their lives over there. Is a conflict a lot closer now than it was just over 2 years ago before this guy was elected?
Well,
right. I mean, it's worse, obviously, because if we all know that Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism that is, already affecting our lives and Israel lives, there will be an attack, obviously. I mean, Israelis already said that if they establish that Israeli civilians were killed by Iran, that they're going to attack them. So, but you know what? Attacking Iran, I mean, we've done all we could during Trump's administration, that, cutting all funding, sanctioning Iran, putting all the pressures necessary, because we need to get rid of a regime there, because regime is bad. So the government is funding. I mean, there are Iranian people that also are, against the government. So many are actually, their liberties are at stake. I mean, they can't live normally in their own country. So there will be obviously something that has to happen to Iran's regime, and we'll see how, what are the next steps. Mm-hmm. Israelis are actually up front there saying already that they will go on attack.
Well, what the Trump administration did so successfully was weaken Tehran, weaken the Iranian regime, the terrorist state. And what Biden did on day one, they basically began to bolster and support the Iranian regime. And so therefore, what we have seen is not just only weak leadership, but leadership that has made this world a more dangerous place. Yeah. And the Biden administration is certainly responsible for that.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Senator Wicker released a statement blaming Biden's administration for working with Iran, which recently secured $6 billion in frozen assets, as we said. And you heard from Ratcliffe, by the time you put the value of the oil and everything else they're doing, it's more like $60 billion. And who knows? All of this, guys, is, if it's possible, made even worse when you start looking at the border situation. There are some reports this morning that the cartel has moved its operation to some places in Arizona on the border, or near the Arizona, to where we have people from Venezuela, from all over the world, and it could be terrorists flowing in from that area. The cartel have moved it there. They're pumping people in. There's nobody there. They're walking in. We have no idea. If you wanted to have an attack on this country right now, it's easier than ever from that border. Another failure from this administration.
Yeah. Well, Paul,
your thoughts on that? Yeah.
Yes, indeed, Paul. And for your listeners, they have to realize that the southern border is open. And in August of this past year, we discovered that a smuggler with ties to ISIS helped migrants enter the United States from Mexico. So we already have 146 people whose names appear on the terror watch list, and they were stopped from trying to enter the southern border. How many entered and we have not known about it?
I have no idea.
This is a serious breach of security in America.
The president was asked over the weekend to hold a press conference and everything. I think Peter Ducey has an update on
President
that.
Biden had nothing to say about this on camera today. We did hear some music throughout the afternoon and the early evening coming from the south side of the White House, the area of the Rose Garden or the portico over there. And we are told that the president and the first lady were hosting a barbecue for executive residence staff. Back to you.
He didn't answer any questions, but they're holding a barbecue, so we can all take comfort in that. What response is going to be enough that stops this, guys?
Right. I mean, as Israeli's army is doing all that they could now, getting complete siege of Gaza. At the same time, they have to be very careful on the northern border because Hezbollah, also financed by Iran, is potentially attacking from Lebanon. Iran promised actually, if Israel is going to go full force on Gaza, that Iranian soldiers are going to attack Israel via Syria. So it's very, very, it's boiling. And actually, the U.S. sent the air carrier, and there's more military and naval forces coming via Eastern Mediterranean closer to Israel. So now we have to really have a full force threat to say, if Iran continue to do this, or if you continue to threaten to escalate attacks on Israel, we are gonna act. So you said earlier how much how are we going to pay with our forces and lives in Iran, and we have to see how we can have this war done with technology that we have. In a way, it's been used right now in Russia's war on Ukraine, so that we don't have casualties, and that we can just contain situation more now, that we don't escalate, that no sides escalated. But
and to be honest with you, because of Ukraine and because of what we are experiencing as far as the economy and everything else, it's the worst possible time to even talk about entertaining financially, and with apparently our supply of weaponry that we've depleted, and also the strategic oil demand or reserves which we've depleted. The worst time to entertain another conflict overseas. The U.S. is sending a carrier strike group to the region, began supplying Israel with munition and other military supplies. That happened yesterday, so we will see. One of the first areas hit by Hamas was the Supernova Trance Music Festival near Israel's border with Gaza. Are you familiar with that area?
Right. Yes, indeed. There were 260 individuals killed at that concert just right next to Gaza. And a lot of young people were shot just, fleeing the site. It was horrific. I mean, we've seen the images of how these terrorists attacked from the air, but also breached the security perimeter and came into Israel proper. But one of the things that I think is so important, Paul, for our legislators and our fellow citizens is that we need to let Israel do its work without any pressure for them to stop or any pressure for them to be restrained. They need to get the job done, and that job is to basically eradicate the Hamas leadership, the Hamas terrorist network. And, it's going to be an ugly war. So, yes, it's great to see members of Congress, including Senator Wicker, stand up and say, yes, we support Israel. But if this goes on for months to come and it gets uglier. We see a lot of casualties. We just do not want to see our American legislators then say it's time to restrain Israel, or even for the administration, which is known to doing that, to show weak leadership. And so I think we all need to see Israel get its job done because it saves America as well.
I agree. Guys, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. And thanks for coming on. That
Thank you
is
so much,
Joe and Natasha from America's Roundtable, which is a heck of a program.